Good morning, everybody. Jody Brozick here with WinterWarriorsLive.com, interviewing head coach, athletic director Dan Aaker of the Winter Warriors. How are you doing, Dan?
Doing good, Jody. It's good to see you. I thought you forgot about me for a couple of weeks.
Busy schedule. This is truly COVID 2020 season, and as you and I were talking before we went on camera, we're just happy to be here, considering all the.
Yeah, and I've said that from day one. Back in May, I was trying to be optimistic, but I didn't know it was going to play out. Once June 1st hit and we could have access to our kids in a limited fashion, I got more confident that things were going to happen. I actually sat on the task force with the Activity Association and worked through that whole process for a safe return. And, by July hit around, I was pretty confident that we were going to have our kids participating again. And that's, to me, the most important thing. It's such a big part of their life. It's a big part of the communities. It took a new perspective in terms of, we always talk to them, about, being appreciative of having chances. And it's not everybody can play football and everybody can play volleyball. You always want to be appreciative of that. And it was before even this year, but boy, that's really elevated now, hasn't it? The way things happened at the end of the winter last year and in the spring. So I think everybody's appreciative. And I think let them have a chance to play and be part of something is huge, and we're already in week 3, and it feels good. It really does.
Let's take a look at the first 2 weeks of the season. You have a 52-7 victory over the Stanley County Buffaloes, and then you win 36-7 over St. Thomas More. 2 impressive wins. One, it was 100-degree weather at Stanley County, and then you go out and take on St. Thomas More on the road. Rivalry renewed at their home field. It was a very intense atmosphere. What were your thoughts from those 2 opening victories, Dan?
Well, I think there's a common thing there between the 2 games that I think is going to be big for us throughout the year. And I really feel when it got to late third quarter, fourth quarter in both games, we had wore those teams out. And that's our depth. And we thought that our depth was going to be good going in the year, and it's kind of proven that. We've been fortunate not to have any injuries with our main guys. And so if you watched us yet, you've seen us being able to rotate a lot, and we have set rotations, and probably deeper than we've been in 3-4 years. And we need to use that to our advantage. And I think you saw that, the hot night in Stanley County. We really talked about that before the game. Stanley's got a nice core 11, 12, 13 players, but it's kind of a drop off after that, and when we're looking at playing 26, 27, we need to use that to our advantage, and I think you saw that kind of come to fruition. And I think St. Thomas More is very similar. That they weren't as deep as we were, and the fourth quarter we scored 20 points, and that's got to be something that we've got to use to our advantage, I think, and it's a blessing, to be honest with you. We're glad we have that. There's still a lot of work in progress. We're a pretty veteran team, but we lost 4 All-Staters, 4 key players, 4 really good players. We returned most of the line, but we did move some of those guys around a little bit. Some guards went to tackles and vice versa. So it's a little different concept when you talk about, you return your line, but it is a little different blocking and things we're seeing, and that's probably where we're at a work in progress. I didn't think, from an offensive standpoint, execution blocking wise in particular, we played very well against St. Thomas More. But with that being said, what we really tried to show them at halftime, because it was just subtle little things that we weren't doing very well, they picked up on that. So that's a big positive. But I think our focus this week in particular was that mental side. I haven't really added anything offensively. I mean, this time of year I'm adding 2 or 3 kind of special plays or whatever, but we're still focused on our base stuff to get down that the mental side of it, and that's what I'm really looking for tonight. But we can get a lot better, and that's encouraging because we've played 2 solid games, but we're not certainly at the level that I feel we can get to if we do the little things and continue to get that, and our guys are buying into that this week, I think, because we did kind of have a heart-to-heart on them about it on Monday. We just needed to show them some film.
Can I interject for just a second here? You have 871 yards of rushing offense, 63 yards of passing offense, and you're saying this team can get better.
Without question. I mean, what we need to realize, and I think our guys do, is we're going to see all kinds of different defensive approaches trying to stop what we're doing. And we got to realize that. I mean, and we got to, there's always little things, and we're never going to play perfect, never. But we were getting confused with some of the stuff St. Thomas More did. With that being said, I thought the first drive was critical, and the first fourth down I went for, when I went back and watched film, and it was in my mind, I was going. I mean, but I realized where we were at, and that could have been a dumb decision. But that's why you roll the dice sometimes, and sometimes you don't. But I think I also want to send a message to our guys. We went for a fourth down 3 times that drive, and we score. Demoralizing to them, confident for us. Could easily went the other way if we don't get it. But the message, I think, is, guys, and the positive of that is, Jody, is we're still blocking guys. We're playing hard. We're blocking guys. It maybe isn't the right guy. That's the only thing we're working on. Effort's been there. Physicalness been there. Playing hard. But just the execution and those the way I want this offense to go can be improved on, and that's what we're looking at. Yeah, we're certainly not disappointed, but yes, we can get better. There's no question we can get better.
This team, we always talked about in the past characters of teams. This team seems like a very fun, enthusiastic team. Am I correct?
They are, but you bring up the point that I'm talking about, and that's what our heart to heart was this week. You need to understand the times we need to focus, and not be so talking, not be so giggly. When we're addressing your skill position, and maybe not you at that, or your position, and you're maybe not the one that I'm addressing it with, you still need to be paying attention, because the last thing you want to have happen is when you go in there and you make that same mistake. That's the thing we're working on. So it's a fine balance. Fun to be around, yes, but our attention to detail had to get better, and I think we saw that this week, and that has to continue, because we never want to take the fun out of the game, but all want to be the best they can be too, and that's the one thing we're working on. What you brought up is exactly how this team needs to progress. We need to keep having fun. I mean, they're tight. I think they're a tight group, but we have a lot of talkers too, and there's time to talk, and there's time to listen, and there's time to get better, and that's what. To be honest with you, the whole focus of this week was, other than preparing for Western Springs.
Well, let's talk about Woonsocket Western Springs Sanborn Central. It's a team we have a mixed history with. It's becoming kind of a rivalry. They've got the big wins early on us. Now we've got a couple on them. They bring an undefeated team to town. What do you see from this Blackhawks team?
I asked early in the year, and I knew this in late November, December, looking at the teams we played last year and who would be the most improved. And I've said that from that point when I looked at their roster, how young they were last year. Their junior class is really good, and their junior class thumped our junior class when they were 8th graders. They beat us in JV the following year, and most of them were playing as sophomores last year. And so it's not surprising when they're off to a nice start. What probably sticks out the most is they haven't given up a touchdown yet. They give a field goal against Garrettson, and that was set up by a fumble that gave Garrettson good field position. And no one's really kind of come that close. So they've been kind of led by their defense. They've changed up their offense a little bit. They're running double wing, so that helps us. They don't run it exactly the same as us, but there's some concepts that they're saying. I think they're still kind of finding their way offensively a little bit. They haven't really scored a ton of points, but they've had trouble with turnovers too. So, but the bottom line is they're a very solid team, and now they're gaining confidence. They're a year older, and they're not going to be intimidated coming here. I think that they're going to pencil this game as, they need to prove their self game. And we know that. I mean, I say this all the time. What you want in your program is it to be a big deal to play with you and beat you. Well, that's where we're at. So we know we're going to get everybody's best shot. So we need to be ready to play. But, good size up front. This will probably be the best line, because they have depth too. And that's the one thing that we look at. We talk about how depth in people. They've got us probably close to as much depth as we do on the line of scrimmage for sure. And big tight ends, DNs, 6'5", 6'6", long, rangy. We don't have a lot of those type of guys, but this might be the shortest team I've ever coached. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. We just don't have a lot of height out there. So they bring some challenges to us, but it really comes back to how much better did we get this week, and can we improve on those things? I think that they haven't seen an offense like we're going to bring to the table in their first 2 games, where they haven't given up a touchdown. But line of scrimmage will be the biggest thing tonight, and conference game. and that that SCSD is kind of up in the air when you look at that too. And so I think for our point, we finally get to play at home. We're off the road and didn't necessarily like that last night when we were getting the field ready, but it looks good, and it's got the big W ready to go, and we'll have a good crowd. We already see a bunch of vehicles parked up there, and I think our community is ready for a home opener and excited about football again. So.
You said you have a veteran team, but you also have a nice mix of young kids coming in. What are your surprises right now that you're seeing develop that you hope continue on?
I don't know if I'd say surprises. I think we had high expectations for some of the ones that we're starting to see. I mean, we're seeing a lot of sophomores get on the field. I think our juniors, seniors, we knew who were going to be there, but we got a lot of runners. Well, we're deep anywhere, but we do have a lot of runners. And what I like about our group is they understand that there's none of them, Sam maybe the exception when we really want to ride him, are going to get 10, 12 carries. It just doesn't work that way. So take advantage of the time you're out there and then block for each other. Riley ran the ball really well against Stanley. We moved Preston back and forth. Aiden Barfus is a freshman, is working into that position where maybe we can leave Preston a little bit more on the line and have more depth in our rotation there, because that's the one area some of those guys don't come off on defense very much. So the more we can get them on offense, which has kind of always been our theory, rest them on offense if you can. But, we get Aiden working there a little bit. You got Aiden, Riley, Preston's running ball, Sam, Caden, Evan, Brady. We got some runners.
Yeah.
So you can mix that up. And hopefully that continues. And then up front, those guys, we're rotating. We're 3 deep at every position. And now Jack Kruger going to rotate at tight end a little bit, picking things up and physical. We can rotate 3 there too. And then we can always throw a wide out in with Joey and Blake. And so we have a lot of options, and hopefully that stays that way. But, get back to that original question. I don't know if I'm really surprised. I mean, I think we expected that and see that. And hopefully that continues. Yeah.
I know you don't put a lot of stock in polls, but we entered the preseason #1, currently #1. Top 5, is it shaping out? Any surprises there, or is that kind of what you think?
Kind of what I would thought. I mean, I think that Bridgewater, obviously, lost Hawkins, who was and some other ones, but he was really good. But you got to remember they returned from Mr. Whole Line too. So I think they're kind of back to some of the stuff they did before, not so much shotgun spread, which hurt us in the championship game, but more of the T double tight hammering people, and they're a program too. They never go away. So,
that's a good word, program.
Yeah, they're there. Sioux Valley's probably the biggest talk in 11B because everybody knows that they didn't lose hardly anything. I think they lost 1 starter. Some of those kids were playing really, really young, and they're athletic. And so I think they got to be right there. McCook, new coach last year, did a really great job with them, and they return a lot. Just a
Athletes.
And Horse is running back too. The first game he had 42 carries, I think. So Krause, so they're good. Elk Point Jefferson is one of the more improved teams too, but then Bridgewater kind of handled them last week, so it tells you where Bridgewater's at. And don't sleep on St. Thomas More. They've got some dudes. I mean, there's 3 or 4 really, really talented college level players in that team, and then if they can stay away from injuries, and their quarterback position is only going to get better. This is the first time we played them where they didn't have a returning stud there. Sullivan's good. They got a freshman that can play there. They can go wildcat with some people. So they'll be the next one in that mix. Then I think you've already kind of maybe seen that separation a little bit already in the top 5 or 6, and then maybe a little drop off. Where Woonsocket Western Springs fits in, I guess we're gonna find out tonight.
Dan, see you at kickoff.
All right, thanks, Jody.